All right. Hey, it's Tuesday. It's Pat Welsh. You know what that means. Taco Tuesday. Take action, crush obstacles.
Nice.
Welcome to the Warrior Servant Leader podcast, where we talk about living with strength, purpose, and humility at work, at home, and in your faith life. This show is for those who serve, whether it's law enforcement, military, or anyone committed to leading with integrity and courage in every area of your life. I'm your host, Pat Welsh, and together with inspiring guests and some solo episodes, we're going to dive into what it means to be a true warrior servant leader in every area of your life. Because leadership isn't about a title, it's about doing the right thing at the right time, the right way, and for the right reasons. In today's Taco Tuesday edition, we're going to talk about and dive into standing as a shield between chaos and order with an incredible guest, Monty Bynum. Monty is like, he may not want me to say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. He's a badass of the badasses. He's a Marine Corps officer, DEA special agent, law enforcement leader. He's taken on dangerous missions across all borders and battlegrounds. He's dismantled criminal networks, led complex intel operations, and has built strategies that shaped outcomes at the highest levels. His expertise is in money laundering, counterterrorism, and international threat response, which is why I say he's a badass of the badasses. But really, what defines Monty the most is his discipline, integrity, and a relentless pursuit of excellence. And we've talked, and Monty has told me that he's not here to maintain the status quo. He's here to raise the standard and lead a movement to restore strength, leadership, and purpose in law enforcement. So let's get to it. Monty, welcome to the show, man. It's great to have you here.
Oh,
Good to see you again. And
damn, Pat. I gotta like pay somebody some big bucks for that intro. Holy crap. I'm like, who's he talking to? Who's he talking about?
oh
This
man,
cool dude.
you're the man. That's why you got 41,000 followers and stuff like that,
I
man.
got 21,000. Now I feel like,
Oh,
I
oh,
just
20,
put the
oh,
pressure
20.
on me. Yeah.
Well, you're going to have 41 after this show.
Yes. Thank you. I love the way you think. Exactly. Speak it into existence. Yeah, brother.
So I'll tell you what, Monty, I know you've been through a lot, seen a lot.
Mhm.
And what I'd really like to get into with you is because Taco Tuesday is about taking action and crushing obstacles.
Yeah.
Can you share with us some of the toughest challenges and obstacles you faced personally, professionally over the last 30 years of your career and how you crushed them?
Yeah. So in the beginning, you know what? Here, looking back, what has been the toughest obstacle? And some this may resonate with people. It's us. And early on, it was being honest with myself. I was the obstacle. I was stepping on my, you know what, all the time in the beginning. Um, had my hair on fire when I had hair. Um, I was working undercover. I was great at getting into stuff, but not great at actually documenting. I and to the point where I had to have some hard talks like, dude, what's going on? I'm literally getting into all kind of stuff. When it came to drugs early on, just had a knack for that and fell in love with that. And then moved into criminal investigations. These amazing cases. The truth was, I did not how to raise my standards and be a complete package. And I got so frustrated. And then I was embarrassed and ashamed. So that was the biggest thing. Then I had to get over myself. I had a tough talk with my mom. I'm like, I love this industry. Here I am, 22, 20. I think, you think you got the world figured out.
Yeah.
I'm crushing. I'm getting all these, I'm doing all the glory shots with the dope and doing all these cool things. But that's not what the police work is all about. It's the full picture and really pushing your limits. And I wasn't mature enough. And it was brutal. It was
Yeah.
really brutal that I had to be honest, like, "Hey, I'm not I'm not doing so hot. Now, back in the day, we had to do our reports by hand. We had to hand. That's like
Yep.
we were
Yep.
handwriting them, and you made 3 mistakes, you had to throw it away. And
Yep.
we had this thing called felony format, and I got behind. I've never been it takes me time to really figure out exactly how I want to say things, but that's hard when you're on patrol and you're stacked with 4 and 5s, felonies that you got to do a night,
Yep.
and all these things. Anyway, how I crushed it was, to your point, I love what this whole thing is about. Really, was learning to humble myself. What difference does it make if I'm not proud of myself? What does it matter, if someone thinks I'm good or if someone thinks I'm horrible? If I am not humble enough to say, I know where I'm at, I can fake the funk, or I can say, "Hey, Pat, help me out. I'm not doing too great at organizing myself to be efficient and to be an excellent, police officer, an excellent detective." Um, and that's what happened. I was fortunate that I went um, early on. My one of my best friends was a police officer with me, and I had to humble myself and say, "Hey, help me out."
Yeah.
And my mom happened to be an English teacher helping me, doing all these, I was great at doing papers and all these things when I had a lot of time. I had to start early on, but she really helped me out find a way that worked for me. And that was one of the biggest things. Once I kind of got onto that, I'm like, okay, this is this is what's most important is being humble.
Yeah. That's
And
one of the best books I've ever read in that very arena by Ryan Holiday called Ego is the Enemy.
yes,
And it is, I experienced that because I was a lawyer first and at a DA, and then walking in, tried cases, murder, tried a 6-day murder, attempt murder, uh, about, man, it's probably about 8 months before I ended up in the academy. And I did. I walked in with that Irish attitude, you know,
yeah,
uh, and ego and that humility. You may be crushing it, but you're not.
right.
And when you don't look at your own weaknesses and ask, like you said, reach out to your mom, reach out to your partner.
I see
How
'em,
how
and
can
that's
I
great.
be better?
Right. I realized I had to stop lying to myself, and convince me. And once I let that go, that was pretty much it. Like I realized there was no need. The only reason you kind of lie to yourself is the story that you tell, and what you think other people are perceiving. And once I really let that go and realized that's not important.
Yeah.
That's not important. And that's the only reason why we make these things up. And because the ego says, "Hey, I don't want to look foolish in front of Pat." But Pat's like, "I already know you look foolish, dude. I'm waiting for you to ask me.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to embarrass. I already see it. You just don't see it."
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And it's hard. Like last week's episode, I talked about living boldly,
Mm,
but that doesn't mean being arrogant and
right,
being an asshole
right.
about stuff.
No, that's
Uh,
not bold, actually. You and I both know that is actually a projection of, they're projecting strength, but in the reality, it's not. It's a lot of insecurity because we don't come off that way. Bold, I love that. Bold, standing on principles, which means we all succeed. We work as a team and we're pulling everybody up. But that arrogance that, "Oh, I'm the best," and um, in reality, we're just really insecure.
yeah. No, absolutely. So that kind of ties into you're not that old in the training business with ADB, right? I mean,
Right. I
this
thought
is
you were like, "Hey, you're not that old."
yeah, no, I got you beat, man.
Yeah.
So how do you incorporate that mindset of excellence with humility in a different breed training?
It's great. It's great. Like so, but really, that's what it's all about. We've forgotten about that. Y- we are servant leaders, and what does that mean? Um, and so, and your whole thing about the premise of leadership. Um, I was a police officer first, then stopped, joined the Marine Corps, went to what I believe one of the best, true leadership programs, how to actually be a professional leader, got my commission, and then came back into law enforcement. Um, it is super important as a leader. That's not the title, like you say. It is a burden.
Yeah.
It's my responsibility to take care of Pat. It's not for me to throw him under the bus and be like, "Well, Pat didn't," and no. If Pat fails, guess whose failure it is? It's mine. I failed to prepare him. We don't teach that in law enforcement. They don't understand that concept. It's not because they don't want to. It's not natural. Human nature says it's all about the self,
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
self-preservation. But you have to be trained. That's a trained leader that says, "No, I'm worried about Pat. I'm worried about Tony. I'm worried about, Timmy. I'm worried about Jane," making sure they're successful because they actually take care of the mission. If I'm the leader, I'm not doing the mission on the daily.
Yep.
I'm competent, but I have these folks,
And
and we don't know that.
and I think that's probably one of the things because you were in the Corps. Now, I wasn't in the Corps, but, man, I taught at 29 Palms. I taught at
Yeah,
Quantico,
yeah,
down in, Beaufort,
yeah,
New Orleans, all over. I had guys from, Okie,
nice.
come to the training, because I was, training out in Miramar
Mhm,
and, MCRD
mhm,
in leadership.
yeah,
And one of the things I learned, in that environment that has not translated over as well into law enforcement is the whole concept of unit integrity
right,
in the Corps and in all our military
right,
arenas, but especially in the combat arena, special forces arena. We got the next week, and I think you might know Jeff Teagues is
mm,
coming on next week
mhm,
or two, and from 82nd Airborne all the way up to Delta Force,
mhm,
and I mean, so that whole unit integrity and mission first.
mhm.
And I don't know if you've had this experience that that part of the military of mission first is difficult in law enforcement.
Oh, it
Uh,
doesn't exist.
yeah, yeah,
Eh,
for
that's the thing, we wouldn't make the decisions that we would do, and that's the question that I would and I often ask, like, 'cause I consult with so many leaders, police executives, um, what is the mission? Well, we're to stop crime. No, what specifically do you want your guys to do on a daily? How does that look? How does that translate? And what is your mission? They don't know, and
and
they
that's
don't because
that's
they
an
don't have
incredible obstacle.
yeah,
That
you don't have a culture of like so one of the things that keeps, what keeps Marines in place, it's not yelling and all that. People always say that.
yeah.
Not that. It's that you worked your ass off. You bled, you sweated, no one said, "Here, you went through this 4-week." You crushed it. You are a changed person. You are a Marine, and now you're big. You are part of a bigger world, and
Mhm.
you're part of this tradition that we do not fail. It doesn't matter we don't have money. It doesn't matter we don't have enough people. It doesn't matter. That's why we spend so much time on the past successes and failures of Marines and the standards that we must have. We will not let down the Marine before, no matter whether you're, a woman or a man, black, white, it doesn't matter. You're a Marine now. You've changed. And so we have a shared culture. I can walk into any room with any Marine, whether they're having a bad day or there's a difficult thing to accomplish, and say, well, Marines can do this. It doesn't matter if they're no longer an active Marine or if they retired for it. It suddenly will light that pilot, flame, and they'll fall right back into that culture. That's right.
Yeah. And
I'm
now
tired.
how do you translate that? Because the mission oriented military is different than and I agree with you that if you go and I've trained cops from Alaska to Florida, Connecticut to California, and I've been in just about every state.
Mm,
And I see it everywhere I go is I ask in the class without Googling it and going to your department website, what is the mission of your agency? And they can't tell me. And so
Which
how
she
do you
can tell you.
how do you translate your military focus uh, of mission and vision and goals and objectives? How's ADB translating that into training to change the culture?
Yeah,
Because if your folks don't know the mission, then how can you hold them accountable to uh, achieving the mission or discipline them for failing?
right.
If they don't even know what the mission of your agency, the bigger picture mission
Well,
of
that
your
is
agency.
great. That's a amazing conundrum. Funny that just answering that question, they have figured out a way to actually do that, against all principles of leadership and discipline. How do I hold you accountable for something I never trained you to do? We figure out a way to make but also the same thing goes for them as well. When I say them, I mean, police executives, leadership.
Mhm.
The truth of the matter is it used to really irritate me, like, why are they not doing this? They wanna be paramilitary. They're not. It's no big deal. They just haven't been trained. So all they're doing is following the guy in front of them. They're doing the best they can. No one sat them and there's building blocks. Yes, there are natural leaders, but this leadership is actually a skill that you have to keep sharpening, and I have to put Pat's interest ahead of mine. That ain't natural.
Right, and that's the
I
servant.
understand
That's
that
the
mission
servant.
comes first. If I understand that, and that those principles stack on each other, if I understand that, then okay, now it makes sense. But if they don't understand that, okay, the mission comes first. What is the mission? And that this is my job, and I am very much connected to Pat's success and his welfare, and that's how the mission gets done. It's not by me. Then it starts to work, but they don't understand it. So what we do, what we're doing is not talking at these guys, all of them, just explaining and how we can do this, but you have to be committed. And that takes real leadership, um, you got to be really squash that ego
Mhm.
and really be willing to be coachable.
And that's a huge one there. The coachable, uh, that you can have the greatest player on your football team or sports team, but if they're not coachable, they're going to ruin the camaraderie. They're going to ruin the culture of your agency because of their ego. They're not coachable.
Yeah.
And I know because of your military background, uh, I became a student of Sun Tzu and the Art of War.
Mm.
Not from a military perspective, but one of the best lessons I ever learned from Sun Tzu that I have found is effective in training in the law enforcement, where we're asking people to change.
Mhm.
Because you were taught this, I was taught this. Ask, make, tell. I'm going to ask you to do something. I'm going to tell you, or it's ask, tell, make. I'm going to ask you to do something. I'm going to tell you to do something. And then if you don't, I'm going to make you do it. And
Mhm.
then we have this contempt of cop. I'm the, the Cartman from, I'm the police. Do not,
Yeah.
you have to respect my authority
Right.
kind of thing. Is Sun Tzu taught his folks the greatest success for change to happen is that whoever you're asking to change, they internalize the value
Yes.
of that change as opposed to the external imposition of rules and regulations.
Yep.
So, do
Oh,
you find that in your experiences, are you finding that same thing in the training arena? Is an obstacle is getting people to change and how they think and
it's
how
not
they
it's not an
behave?
yeah, that's a great question. So it's funny, right? It's really framing, and it seems like, oh, that would be an obstacle. All you can't teach, all old dogs new tricks. Uh, Actually, science has shown that we actually can. But no. So it's really exposing them to these concepts, and that we can change, and that they want to, and they are so hungry, all of them, truthfully. They are so hungry for something better because, quite honestly, this is what we're talking about. This whole system is not working for anybody. Even the executives that are up there that have they're there, they are hungry for their people to be, inspired. they're frustrated that they don't understand why people are leaving. They don't really understand. They don't understand who to recruit. They don't understand, what they're doing. They don't like having to try to dance around and, submit to civilian leadership. They don't want, they didn't get into that, but they don't understand how this all fits. And so we do silly things like we start hiring people to be job fillers instead of, it all starts with getting the right people that are purpose driven, that are servant leaders, and then training them. What we do is we hire people like you, Pat, and we put them in here and we train them at a minimal level, like very minimal level. Like, do you know that, to be a police officer here nationwide, you have less than 1,000 hours that you have to obtain. To be a cosmetologist, you have to have 3,000. To be a barber, you have to have 3,500 hours. That's insane. That is insane. And that is far more complex. But we make excuses like we don't have the time, we don't have the funding, but yet we can do this stuff and put people in these positions where they're overwhelmed. It's a dynamic, constantly changing, industry. We have to now, people have no problem challenging, cops. When I got started, you walk in the room and you had a uniform on, it was over.
Yeah.
You didn't have to say anything. You didn't have to be Billy Badass to say anything. But to your point, you said something about, respect my authority and that whole thing. That's the last thing they have, been taught in the academy. Do not back down. Can't give an inch. Bad training. I mean, if that's where it stops, that's all I got on my tool belt.
All right.
But if we continue that training, and really, we have all this, we don't even know that we can retreat. We don't even know we have the permission. What we're thinking in that moment, like, I can't retreat. I can't let these guys know that I back down and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
And, and they get the ego pumps up and why don't you give me your license or all this other stuff? Instead of realizing, hey, this is a trap and here's how I'm going to handle this a little bit differently.
And the scary part is that we take that same attitude home with our families. And because we're used to instant compliance.
Yeah.
If I tell you to do something, do it. If you don't, I'm going to make you. And then we can't turn that switch off, which it really shouldn't be on in that way. And then the ego, you talk about, I can't let people know I back down. Or I remember I got in a fight with a guy and he broke my pinky finger. And he went to the hospital as well. And I get to the hospital, and fortunately, the ER doc was the brother of a homicide detective.
Oh, wow.
On our department, 500-man department. And I begged him. I said, don't write it up as a break. Just say it's a sprain. I lied to him. I told him I was going on my 4 days off and I'd really take care of it. But if you write it up as a break, I'm going to get desk duty, light duty. And, I'm not going to be a sissy, that a broken pinky. And so he did. He wrote it up and he just taped my 2 fingers together. And then I got out in the cruiser and I still had paperwork to do. And, back at the office, my arrest report and my injury report.
Right.
I get back in my cruiser, leave the hospital. I untape it. I get to the office. Sergeant goes, so how you doing? And I wave these 3 fingers. I'm fine, boss. He goes, get on your paper. Because you don't want to be seen as a weak.
Right.
And then we carry that into our family life. We carry that into our faith life. And then we bottle it all up, and then we wonder, why cops have PTSD, why cops 100%. Are committing suicide,
100%,
all that kind of stuff. So it didn't happen overnight, and we can't change it overnight. But tell us about the folks, the cadre of instructors that you're gathering together. Because how long you stood this up? Within the last year or so?
Well, officially. It was about 9 months ago we started, but operationally they've been building as they go, as my COO likes to say. We've been playing, building the plane as we're flying. So the guys, the back office guys, because it's a very technical system, and actually a two-part system where it's actually an amazing website that is able to handle a, a tremendous amount of information and data, and a catalog of almost 100 courses. And then we have an online platform that allows what they want most is a community of like-minded, driven people, where they can actually share information about how to do, tactics better, investigations better, nutrition, live better, their faith. They have questions, they can actually connect with these instructors. So we began at about a year ago looking for like-minded individuals, like-minded instructors that had the same core values of serving. It's sad, but you kind of think, okay, everybody's the same in this field, but they're not. Different parts of their lives, different chapters, and that's what we were looking for. Guys that still believed in this industry, still believed in the values and being a servant leader, and now they really wanted to pour back into the next generation. And it's been amazing. So we have 72 instructors, 12 of which are PhDs. Active PhDs is amazing. Many of them are full-time law enforcement professionals. We have several chiefs. So one that's a two-time chief, one that's written 8 books. We have something like 10 authors. So it's an amazing, but they're all badasses.
Yeah.
In there, right? And that's been kind of that's the North Star, that we want these badass servant leaders that are going to challenge, hey, this is the way we've always done it. Well, that's not good enough. That is not good enough. And so we feel very blessed, and to have these folks. They've been out there, they've been out in different situations, but now we put them all together like the Justice League. Now they're all sitting together, and it's pretty cool to hear the conversations and be in this. And it is absolutely amazing. Just about we'll have about in our online community. Just about every night we'll have these amazing conversations, everything from like an open mic night where everybody can join and say whatever they want, to a real guided kind of podcast, to we have an exclusive meeting room for just the women, to get them to have strategies of support and power. That's pretty awesome.
Tell us real quick, tell us about the upcoming all women law enforcement summit. I think it's coming up in September. Share that, because that is incredible to have, because I was a keynote at the Colorado women's in law enforcement, but there was guys, you have such a unique approach. This is women for women. Tell the listeners about that.
The only thing, so again, getting back to mission focus and how I don't really care, whether you're a woman, you're a man, or you're black, white, Hispanic, it doesn't matter. What I'm focusing on the mission. And right now, we're not doing so hot in law enforcement. This is an untapped potential pool of the way they think differently. But right now, what we guys don't understand is some of them have been relegated to the corner, and we're missing the potential of how we can do things differently. People want to challenge that and say, oh, they can't do this, they can't do that. And I'm like, what? Yeah, they can't go up against probably the likelihood that they're going to be able to go up against a 6'3", 250-pound martial artist. Yeah, maybe not. But that's not what this job is all about. And by the way, not many men can do that. And that's not how we should be practicing law enforcement. We all want to go home. So, that's not how we're going to do it. And if that's the way we're constantly thinking, that's old school. That's why these criminals are beating us up. We need to push the threshold, and we need to really think differently. And again, we need to think. And that's really the most important is the mindset. So when you're able to find, individuals that have that an indomitable mindset, that they're gonna, this is my mission. I am to protect my community. I am to relentlessly pursue justice. When you find somebody like that, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, where if they're a man or male. You've got to understand that is a resource that doesn't grow on trees. See, many of these guys, police executives, are so panicked that they couldn't tell you what they're looking for in recruiting. So they don't understand the value of that. What they say, because I ask them, what are you looking for? I'll be honest with you, Monty. Right now, I'd be happy with the guy that could pass the polygraph and show up for work and all that. What? And so guys like you or me are already on there. We this is our passion. This is our calling. We're servant leaders. Now I got a guy he's just a job filler
Yeah.
who's going
Here
to be
for a
bitching
paycheck.
about working overtime and this and that.
Yeah.
He's not driven by.
Yeah.
But the Chiefs panic and they don't know. See, they created a culture that's not attractive to guys like you and me. So anyway, the women's conference is to really highlight that and put them in place with all these badass leaders that they don't get to see all the time because they're in their own world. And they may have 2, 3, maybe 20 women throughout their agency. But now we're bringing them all together where they're able to kind of get some technology, and some strategy that actually helps them, empowers them, and pushes them. It's not like, hey, participation trophies, because these women, that's not what they're about.
Right.
They're about pushing our limits and pushing everybody and making things better and strategizing. How do we make and how do we accomplish the mission? So that's one of the unique things that this conference is all about. It's not about like, hey, we're just going to talk around and it's great. We're going to have a participation trophy and take some pictures.
Yeah.
These women are like, this is the key asset that these agencies really want to, they really want to develop. They're missing it. Old school sometimes misses it. Sometimes old school doesn't. Sometimes they get it. They know it. So,
but usually they get it because they got really smacked upside the head,
right,
with a lawsuit or something like
right.
that. So
Right.
when and where is the conference for women's conference?
So that is September 8th through 11th here in Atlanta, Georgia, and it's fairly exclusive. 250. That's it. We're not making it too big because it's going to get really intimate. I promise you, any woman that comes to this, it's going to change, their personally and professionally. I promise. The network that they're going to get here, it's going to affect everything. Some of the people that we have, the speakers, we have some of the peak high performance coaches. They're going to come out and give them strategies and techniques onto really blowing past limiting beliefs. And that's the biggest thing that all of us really suffer from is limiting beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
And then setting your goals. Actually, how do I now that I'm past that? I'm past treading water, and I'm past like asking for permission. Now, how do I dominate a situation? Because that's what we're really all about. We don't want you just to, we don't even talk about wellness. We talk about strength. We talk about dominating the situation. That's what we want. We want a group of badasses that are here for the right reasons. That's what this world needs. We need more of them.
And you can be a badass that has an incredible deep well of compassion and empathy.
Has to be, right?
Yeah.
It's not can be, has to be.
Has to be.
Has to be.
Because we joke
With that strength, right? Just
yeah.
Because with all that strength and power, we become a tyrant and a bully.
Yep.
We have to have restraint. We have to know that we have vanquished this. It's going to be overwhelming. You decide to fight, it's going to be an overwhelming fight that you don't ever want to repeat. But once it's done, it's done. Brush you off, take you to jail or do whatever, and it's done.
Yep.
It's not personal, it's professional.
And the same intensity and commitment is like I've told the story. A 12-year-old kid, young black male. I'm a skinny 150-pound 30-something-year-old white cop, and I get the call to go to the house because he's come back home. And the parents both work, but they live in a crap neighborhood. They're sending their son, they're paying tuition to send him to a private school. They just can't afford to get out of this drug-infested gang neighborhood. And the mom looks at me and says, "We don't know what to do. Will you talk to him?" And I'm like, what am I going to say to this kid that I didn't grow up this way?
Yeah.
I haven't experienced. I see it.
Yeah.
I see the death and the drugs and the destruction. So I said, yeah, I'll talk to him, but let me just talk to him, just one-on-one. So they had a little sitting room, and I go in, and 5 minutes tops. The kid never makes eye contact. He just sits there with his head down. And I talk to him like a parent, not like a cop. I
Mhm,
probably didn't say anything that his parents hadn't already said to him.
mhm,
And then I left.
mhm.
18 years later, I'm in line at Kroger's checking out groceries, and this voice behind me goes, "Hey, Welsh, is that you?" And I look, and it's like a 6'4", 30-something-year-old black guy. And I'm like, crap, what did I arrest him for?
Right.
Because he's calling me by my last name.
Yeah.
And so I was, I did a, be polite, be professional, but, have a plan.
That's right. General Miles.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I said, yes, sir. He goes, you don't remember me? And I go, no, sir, I don't. He goes, when I was 12 years old, you came to my house because I had run away from home. I want to tell you, I'm married, graduated from college, have 2 daughters, and I want to say thank you. And we have, so that same intensity that you talk about, that if you're going to go toe to toe with us, then it's going to be violent. It's going to be, we're not going to dance. But that same mindset and compassion you take to the kid, the 12-year-old kid, or the battered woman, or whatever, and you can still be a badass, but
No.
you don't show that.
That's actually what you that there. This is a different, thing of, being a badass.
Yeah, but it's a
Elevate
mindset of
That's right. This is
excellence.
an elevated level of alpha
Right, right,
that it it's difficult. It's difficult to fight.
right.
We fairly mastered that, but this is a new level of challenge. And imagine we really, in our hearts, we really want to do, great and good by the community. Imagine if we mastered that. Imagine, and I'm sure you probably have stories, that the impact that you didn't know. But imagine if that's what we really were mastering. The impact that we could have if we did that, like with what you said, with the intensity that I'm going to pour into this guy,
Yeah,
this kid. And then we realize that is a Christian calling that we pour into these, and that is what we're here for. Okay. With that I love what you said, that intensity, that love, that compassion, that much. That is a elevated. I will with righteous indignation. If you choose to do wrong and battle me, okay, I'm prepared. But if you're hurting and need guidance, eh, fatherly love, by our maker, through me, I'm going to be so intense with that love. Set all these fears away. Well, he's black, I'm white. What the hell? I don't know.
yeah,
But I'm going to be so focused on the love that our maker gives us and the
yep,
grace that kid can't help but feel. And everybody, imagine if we had that power. We stopped with this nonsense. I'm going to be okay. You want to be really elevated. You want to be the alpha of the alpha. He carries the sword in one hand and the word in the other, and the
yep,
love in the heart.
yep. That's that.
How
Right
can
on, right
you
on.
make so much? We can do so much, but we are not trained and given permission, because our leaders are worried about other things, and they are scrambling. They are treading water. They need help too. The whole system needs help. And this is not a condemnation of, oh, these leaders suck and they're the devil, and this sergeant's great, or they're it's the whole thing's messed up, and we've trained them this way.
Yep,
The great thing is we have trained them this way, and we can retool this and refocus. It's our fault.
yep,
And it's also, we have the capacity to do this, and not this is one thing that does drive me crazy, is civilians now saying, "Hey, I watched NYPD Blue. I watched, Miami Vice for these years. I promise you, I can now oversee and I can tell you what you should be doing, better." Could
yeah.
you imagine? I mean, that's literally. I mean, we're making
Uh,
fun. That's literally what's happening. They have no training, no basis, no professional, but they know better. Imagine you and I, Pat, we roll into, Denver, hospital and say, hey, Pat and I have been watching General Hospital. We're watching, Grey's Anatomy for last 4 years. We've been discussing this. You should not be doing this medical practice this way.
Yeah.
We really feel
That's
this way.
what a
That's
great
the same thing.
comparison. What a
That
great
is,
comparison.
but because we're in such lack and fear, these guys don't love us and they hate us and da 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 da. Da. Who cares?
Mm,
We're going to help them despite them. Who cares? Good times, okay, who cares? Bad times, who cares? That's not our mission.
all right.
I'm not here for you to like me. That's not because I would do something different. My mission would be for you to like me. And that's what it's rolled into. My mission is to protect you and help you and make a safe community and go get the bad guys.
Yeah.
That is a challenge that no one else, a charge that no one else has. And to do it justly, that's a tremendously hard job. I don't need anything else. It doesn't mean that I'm gonna be brutal or anything. That's just not my focus. My focus is giving you the highest quality level of service. Problem is that's not our focus. Hey, Pat, here you go. 900 hours, you're a cop. Good luck. 20 hours a year. That's horrible.
Yep.
We're not even
Absolutely.
qualified to be barbers.
Yeah. 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 That's, and the whole continuing education. When I first came on, we had to have 40 hours a year.
Yeah.
Now it's 8. And
What? Go
yeah, 8
backwards.
in Ohio. It was 8
Wow.
out. It got down when I retired. We were at 8 hours of training a year, and it would be whatever in the state mandated what the training would be. It may have been
Right.
domestic violence. It
Right.
may have been whatever de-escalation. Yeah, but they determined what the 8 hours were, and that's all you needed.
Right.
Before we had to have 40 hours classroom in service. That didn't count firearms.
Right. Right.
And so yeah, we've just that's one of the and this from being in the training arena is repetition's the mother of all learning.
That's right. And we do it
And
every day, though. That's the thing. See what people say. Well, it will never change, and they never think about informal training. I'm learning from the chief. Like I'm watching. I'm learning from what other cops are doing in bad behavior. I'm learning from what I'm constantly adapting and changing.
right,
That's no such thing. It's just like that's the world always changes. We just don't understand that we have to step into it and decide which way is it going to change and how much control are we going to have. Things are always in motion. They're always going to
okay.
change. And when people say that, I realize we don't have a growth mindset.
Yeah. Well, you know why the people hate the police?
I do.
Because that's all they hear. The
Yeah.
repetition. All they hear is the George Floyd stories
Right.
and all that kind of stuff is all they hear. So that's the repetition.
Yeah.
And we fail to repeat
Right.
the thousands
Right.
of things that we do
That
on
is
a daily
exactly my
basis.
point. Here's the thing, and I made a post that was controversial, a poll actually, just last week. The headline was essentially that women don't belong in law enforcement. People were like, "Oh my god," and I said, and some some really got upset, thinking I gave any credence. But here's the thing: we continue to do these. We continue to have this type of thinking, limited thinking, and we're not expanding. We're not looking at how do we really make things better. We're just kind of sort of satisfied with a status quo. When we don't have people that are not just thinking about it, but developing strategy are actually working, and so we're not thoughtful, we're not intentional, we're very reactionary, and we're very baseline instead of being a true professional. There is no way, as much as I love this industry, that we can really say that this is a profession. I
That's
mean,
it.
imagine like here's another analogy. The level of professionalism, Pat, is this. You and I went to flight school. You and I both got, we're now licensed pilots in a single engine. The next day, you and I both show up to the large airport and they say, here you go, you're a pilot, jump into that 747. That's what's happening. That's what we're doing.
Yep.
And we want to be called professional. Okay, really? How many people really want to get on board on this? And by the way, it's self-inflicted. We're creating a lot of these problems because we don't raise up the standards. These guys, they'll do it. They can do it. They can meet and exceed those standards. We're just not pushing it because we're saying, well, we don't have this. We don't have the time. We don't. But that's how we have some Joy Floyds. That's how we have whether justified or not, or that there's other ways that we could handle this. There's other ways, that we could. It's not a question. It's not a question. And you're right. We are not pushing back on these narratives. And guess what happens? When you don't push back on the narrative, it becomes truth.
Right. And you get, like, our department, we get sued every once in a while, for discrimination in hiring. And we never lost. I mean, civil rights things, DOJ. But here was the minimum qualification to be a police officer on a 500-man agency, a GED and a 4th grade reading level. Literally, that was, and I'm not saying that you have to have, I mean, like Lakewood, Colorado, you have to have a minimum bachelor's degree.
Yeah.
Having a degree doesn't make you a better cop, but it does show better skill sets that we can then train you into a culture and a way of constitutional policing, if you will.
Yeah.
And so if you settle for mouth breathers, you settle for the minimum requirements, then you're going to get minimum output.
But see, this is the problem. And this is what happens, right? So, well, we can't find any minority candidates that qualify.
Yeah.
Well, our circle is exactly 10 miles from the police station. And here's where you cannot use the excuse for this in any level. The Marine Corps has never missed their recruiting, goals in the last 15 years, and it is very friggin' tough. It's, at least to be an officer, it's very tough.
Yeah.
And it is very well represented through, all colored creed, Asian, black, white, women.
Yep.
Standards are elite.
Yeah, because people will live up to your expectations. And if you
it's just marketing.
Right. Got it.
You want elite, then you be elite, and that's all you talk about. If you want someone to fill your seats because you're so panicked, just say, hey, we're good, and here's the minimum. Hey, don't worry. But see, here's what the Marine Corps does. Every corner of this nation, they recruit. It's the standard. You want to be one of the best? We're the smallest agency. You want to be part of the best. You want to push yourself because you know you're built more. Come here. And it's very competitive. It's outrageously competitive.
Yep.
I don't know how I don't know how I got in, but the bottom line is this. We are not willing to put the effort in to get the best locally. Well, there's not enough, we looked all in, Georgia. We can't find, outstanding black candidates or women candidates. Okay, why are we even talking? Sounds like you better go to, South Carolina.
Yeah.
Sounds like you need to go to North Carolina. Sounds like you need to go to Alaska. I don't care. That's mission focused. I don't care. Don't tell me what you didn't do. Tell me how you got so many great candidates. That's what we don't do. See, we don't train mission focused. If we did, Pat, this be a different industry. People will be fighting again. Kids, my boys, I had a great career where I pretty much a detective the whole time. It's, it was wonderful. Boys saw me, and I rarely ever bitched about anything. They don't want to be cops, and their friends don't want to be cops. When I grew up, we wanted to be two things. People wanted to be, a cop or a banker. And I grew up in Delaware, and that was the two industries.
Yeah.
But that's not now.
Right.
Not now. And it's part of it is the unchecked narrative that people are throwing out there. But part of it is we are not, a industry of excellence. We say that. That's false advertising. Just like we say, hey, we're family. If you're family, you better be family. You don't treat guys like that. You get into and find out what's going on with Pat. Why is he being an asshole? Normally he's a great guy. Well, his mom's in hospice. Do you think maybe we should give Pat some time and hey, we're going to figure this out? We're going to really take care of him. Hey, Pat, is feeling challenged. He's like kind of acting up. Why? Because he's not. Because he's not encouraged. We put him in a box.
Yeah.
We didn't encourage him to push more. There's more things that he could do. Yep. We don't take any risk. We don't take any ownership. We snare them in with this amazing, passionate, career that you can have. And you can do so much impact. And then when you get in here, we treat you like you work at Walmart.
Yeah.
And we buy it, right? So we come in here like, that's what I want. I could go off and make $100,000, or I come in here and make a decent salary where I, not great, but I'm pursuing my passion and I my purpose, and I'm a servant leader. That's great. And then we treat them like just employees. That's
right. That we're waiting for the early warning system to tell me I got a problem with one of my officers. Is that we
are the problem?
Yeah, we're Kermit the Frog drinking the tea. None of my business. And one of my favorite sayings is, if you turn a blind eye to a problem, you're eventually going to be blind in both eyes.
Yeah.
So, Monty, it's been great talking with you. How can people get a hold of you or ADB for training or keynote speaking?
Absolutely. So pretty easy. You can find me all over LinkedIn, Monty Bynum, ADB Nation, throw those in there. You'll be able to find me. ADBtraining.com, ADBnation.com as well. Please connect with me. If you see me on LinkedIn or see me on Facebook, please drop me a comment. Say, hey, I hate your bald head. It's distracting. Say anything to me. Connect. I would love to, have a chat with you and see how things are going with you. And is there anything that we can help with? That is the mission of ADB. Is we are all about focusing on the mission, and that's to make their lives better. We've got so much, untapped potential. These guys aren't being led, so they're kind of being held, down. Imagine if we could tap into these guys and show, these quote unquote leaders how to really tap into that, the difference they would make overnight, and what they would feel so empowered. These guys would be jumping out of bed again.
Yep, absolutely. Hey, I know you got the conference for women. Do you have an all law enforcement conference coming up?
We do next year. So in January, it's going to be at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas. The same time as SHOT Show. Pretty excited about that because all through my career, I wasn't a firearms guy, but I love firearms. I never got a chance to have the agency pay for me to go out there. What's cool is we're ending just as they're starting. So a lot of these guys are going to be able to. I know they're going to be the cop, creative, and they're going to figure out how they're going to be able to have the department send them out here to the conference. You have a great network, get poured into, and then be able to have a day or two to really get into SHOT Show. So it's going to be an amazing event, and that's going to be January 2026. So
awesome. All right. Well, hey, Monty, thanks for taking time. I know you are so busy. To take an hour I know is difficult for you. So thanks for joining us.
It's been my pleasure.
For our listeners, I hope you've enjoyed this episode, found it challenging, encouraging, that you're fired up to lead with strength, with humility, live with purpose at home, at work, and in your faith life. Be sure to catch all our episodes at the warriorservantleaderpodcast.com, or if you've got your favorite platform, Apple, all that kind of stuff. We're on all of them, about a dozen of them. I just was checking this morning. Our top 10 countries are all over the world. We're on 4 continents. So join our community. If you want to go deeper into becoming a warrior servant leader, either one-on-one, find out how training can from warrior servant leader can come to your agency, or you need a dynamic keynote speaker. I'm 100% Irish, so I got the gift of gab. If I can't dazzle you with brilliance, I'll baffle you with bullshit. But it will be fun. Just jump on my calendar on our website, or also I'm on LinkedIn, Pat Welsh JD, and just jump on the calendar and we'll have some time together. So until next time, remember to always strive to do the right thing at the right time, the right way, and for the right reasons. Love you all, and see you next Taco Tuesday.